Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. We're here to discuss a very hot topic at the Brigham, and that is the go live for Epic when it is related to the Patient Service Center, which I will refer to now as the PSC. So the Patient Service Center is the call center that provides all referral services, pre-registration of existing and new patients to Brigham and Women's Hospital, as well as all the other entities, but we're focusing today on the Brigham. You guys are here because we support all of you in one way or another, whether it's registration and managed care or just registration. So about a year ago, the Brigham and Women's went live with Epic, big bang, which was bang, as you all know. So what happened during that transition was my boss realized that there was some lack of transparency, lack of communication between the Patient Service Center and the practices that we support. So what we did was we evolved my role as the Senior Operations Manager to the Senior Manager of Hospital Relations. And so now what I do is go out and try and engage the practices, open up our lines of communication. How can we help you? How can you in turn help us so that we all are doing the right thing by our patients? So we came up with an engagement model. That engagement model has 5 points to it. We identify the practices that maybe are having some issues. That issue might be they're not sure how to schedule a patient that has workers' comp. The issue might be they're lacking in their referrals because of something the Patient Service Center is doing. The next step is we identify, we educate the practices. This is what we have noticed. We will sit and go out and observe scheduling, check in, check out, make recommendations based on that. We make the practice aware of what the issue may be when related to the Patient Service Center. The next step is then we follow up with how we are going to execute that. So I have someone that works for me. He's a project specialist. He does the observations. He then comes up with a work plan by priority. So we're noticing that the MSPQ is not done correctly, which is a very huge issue within all the entities at Partners. We're noticing that someone's not flagging something correctly while they're scheduling a workers' comp patient. They don't know how to use the DAR properly. They hasn't customized the DAR to their liking. So he will prioritize that, sit with the director, and ask them, what's most important to you? Perhaps we have 10 things. If we could figure out 5 things to fix, then we're golden. From there, we come up with a work plan that will show, we'll come up with a work plan and then we go based on training. So we go out to them and say, here's the new refresher training based on registration issues, referral issues, and follow up from there is then a metric, improve results. So we follow them from inception to completion as to whether or not have we hit the targets? Do we do it at the right amount of time? Do they still need more refresher training? Is there something that we're missing? And we go back to them 6 months later. So we've started with a few practices. The first one was orthopedics at the Brigham. They had a slightly lower than impressive MSPQ completion rate. They started at 43%. And today, after completing the refresher training as well as following up with them, they are now at 96% completion rate based on the feedback that we provided them, the refresher training, and their follow-up. So what we are going to be doing is implementing this throughout all of Brigham ambulatory practices as well as Mass General, and then we'll follow through with all the other entities that come up on Epic.
Nice timing.
Today that I was ever before.
Nice timing. You're like 4 minutes and 10 seconds. So perfect. Durance, you can go first.
Oh.
Oh yeah, no, not yet. You're gonna go. It's like what the?
Oh, okay.
You can talk to her
okay.
first. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, really good eye contact. You definitely knew your material. You have I was kind of like, oh man, I hope you're doing, not hope, you do well. Like you look at people, you bring them in a little, and it's like, wow, she knows what she's talking about. I can listen to her even for longer. The only thing that I would say is that I think I said last time, the breathing, like you
caught
take-
myself this
yeah,
time.
yeah. I'm like, oh, is she gonna hold the breath or let me keep going? But, you know, you did well though.
I do like how you looked at all sides of the room, and that was at multiple points during the presentation, so you were trying to engage us all. And I think your hand gestures really helped because they were, no, I don't want to say driving the point, but they really seemed to match what you were talking about. And you looked down a couple of times. So I don't know if that's when you're nervous or you're trying to collect your thoughts.
I thought you were good. The thing about the voice, I don't know what you're talking about at all. I think your voice sounds fine, informative. I like that a lot of times when we're discussing things or presenting things, we use acronyms, and you did mention one, but you defined it for us. So I think that was important. Sometimes, like when we're speaking, you just go off and you start saying, the PCS, and then
Right.
like nobody knows what you're talking about. So that was great. And yeah, you got a lot of information in 4 minutes, and so I think that was great. You seemed organized in your thought process.
Thank you, I was not at all. I changed the presentation like 5 minutes before I went on.
We do that all the time. It doesn't matter. It matters how you get the presentation done and if it makes sense.
I thought it was great. I thought you had great hand movement, and you always went back to like the neutral hands that Brenda talked about last week, which was awesome. Really good eye contact. I would say the only thing, there was a couple of times where I think you either lost your train of thought or stumbled, and you always said, "Excuse me," where I think maybe if you leave out the "excuse me,"
Okay.
it wouldn't have even been noticeable that you stumbled. But I think otherwise it was really good.
I actually liked the excuse me. Just in the sense that, I mean, I get it, it was definitely slightly distracting, but it's important we do stump up as presenters, so like when you mess up, it's good to correct yourself. Like you said, I think it was identify rather than educate, so then you said educate. So I actually really liked it, but, and then great hands. I like how you identified the audience in the beginning. I know that we're supposed to know who you're speaking to, but you kind of reminded me like who I'm supposed to be observing this. And then I had the eye contact and kind of staring off into space a little bit when you were gathering your thoughts. I don't know if that's a bad thing necessarily, because you might need a second to gather those thoughts, but I definitely could see you like kind of stare at something, gather your thoughts, and it's not necessarily bad, but maybe just trying to keep engaged while you're gathering. But otherwise it was really good. I had all the other stuff about the voice and hands and everything.
Yeah, I also thought it was really well done. I love the introduction and how you did explain. You gave a brief introduction of the audience that we were supposed to be, and also explaining that acronym that you had given us. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, I thought that your projection was really good, and the voice thing, like, definitely did not notice that at all. So, it's good.
I think you had great eye contact. I think you had great movement walking around. I do have a question. Do you normally have a PowerPoint when you're presenting?
Sometimes, yeah.
I think, and I know personally for me, it's more helpful to have like that PowerPoint because it's hard to try to sit there and remember everything that you have to discuss. And I think you're used to having that PowerPoint, so to sit there and try to remember each point, it's hard to. But I think other than that, you did great.
I like the eye contact again. I like your presence here in front of us, and you were moving around. You mentioned that you wanted to go slower because you're fast-paced, and the breathing thing. I think you actually took the time to breathe and to pause and keep going, and that helped me follow the whole presentation. So I think I actually like that. To improve, I don't know. I really don't know.
I agree with everyone else, like good presentation, good eye contact, good movement, good pace. I agree with Emily on like the staring off just into space a little, like I was like, oh, that is actually, I think that's something.
Where'd she go?
Like, where'd she go? I was like, what are you looking at? But yeah, overall very good.
It was a good presentation, definitely. And I think, like, looking at the list of what you wanted to work on, so of course I saw my clock. And you started off fast and a little high-pitched, not too much. So I'm suspecting that last week it was a little more high-pitched than it was today, because it didn't bother me. After 1.5 minutes, you slowed down. And your tone got a little softer and a little lower. And after 2.5 minutes, even better. Then you started to teach and to have a kind of a conversation with your audience. So for you, maybe whenever you do, I don't know if Brenda talked to you guys about it last week, but what I often do is roam around the room where I'm teaching, or when I'm speaking to people. I'm just in the room, walking around, getting a feel of the people. Just to get my nerves to calm down a little bit, because now I know, and now you know, you need about 2.5 minutes to calm down. So if you're standing on a stage, maybe you can peek towards the people in front of you. If you're presenting in a room, maybe you can stand by the door if you have the time and let people in and say hi to the people you're teaching or you're presenting to. If that's not the case, what will help is belly breath. Do you know what a belly breath is?
Yes.
Yes. So what you're doing right now when you're probably because you were a little bit nervous, ooh, and that's uncomfortable, and I can't finish a sentence afterwards anymore. So practice at home. Get like a nice firm stance, your weight in your heels, and practice a belly breath. And that will help you tremendously if you don't have the chance to get comfortable with the room. If
Never
that makes
thought about
any
that.
sense.
Actually, after I had my first child, they told me that, like, you can't be nervous and have anxiety at the same time as you're breathing.
Yeah,
And so you do a
yeah,
belly breath.
yes, definitely. And when I was pregnant, I couldn't even do a belly breath. I was like,
I'm an actor. This is after the baby.
okay. But yeah, think about the belly breath. So think about the 2.5 minutes that you need, and make sure that you find a way to get comfortable with your audience before you start presenting. About the staring in space when you are gathering your thoughts, I think that's what it was, right? It wasn't too noticeable for me. I noticed it a little bit. If you're more comfortable with your audience, you can gather your thoughts while looking at somebody. You can just look around the room, and there's a little bit of silence, which nobody notices except for you. So think about that. Don't stare into space, because then we know that you're nervous.
Okay.
And then we get a little bit nervous because do you know what you're talking about?
Right.
Yeah, so try to have some eye contact while you're gathering your thoughts. Nice disposition, and nice pitch and pace after 2.5 minutes. So great job.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it is